Welcome back to KTN Prime. Thanks for staying with us. Before we go into the deliberations right here in studio, let's just recap what you'll be waking up to tomorrow on Kenya's bold newspaper, The Standard. That's the headline, Reign of Anarchy. We are zooming in on the burnt hospitals to brazen looting. Kenya is spiraling into a state of orchestrated anarchy, fueled not by criminals in the shadows, but by power-hungry elites in plain sight. As goons terrorize citizens and vigilantes rise in retaliation, the government issues threats with one hand and shields allies with the other. With 2027 polls looming, what the country is witnessing isn't just unrest, it's a chilling rehearsal. That's what you'll be waking up to tomorrow. We have the numbers plastered on the front page of The Standard. 42, that's the number of those who have been killed on June 25th and the July 7th demonstrations. 600 people injured across the country, with the Interior CS claiming the bulk. 496 are police officers and 1,500 are in police custody, arrested in retaliation with the demonstrations. While majority were released, 121 face charges ranging from terrorism to arson. That encompassed in the bold newspaper. Make sure you grab yourself a copy tomorrow, because only the bold speak the truth. Well, right about now, we want to evaluate the road ahead for the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, who have a full tray after the 7 newly sworn-in commissioners took oath of office and assumed their designated positions. It's good news because the commission was commissionerless for almost 2.5 years, and their mandate after being sworn in will expire in July 2031 after they serve a 6-year non-renewable term in office. What awaits them, you ask? We have 22 mini polls that are coming up across the country. One in the Senate position, I think about 6 in the National Assembly, and 15 in the ward positions across the country. We equally have mass voter registration drive that should be conducted in the run-up to the 2027 general election. The audit of the voters' register is equally a key concern, with various groups, including ELOG, pushing for a complete audit and removal of dead voters on the register. Boundary delimitation is equally on their in-tray and the upcoming 2027 general election. So it's clear time is of the essence and they have their work cut out for them. And just recently, the chairperson, Ethicon, gave his word to remain neutral, promising Kenyans that their voices will be heard and that their voices will count in the election. Before I introduce my panelists, let's just listen in to what the newly sworn-in chair had to say last week, Friday.
Foremost loyalties to the people of Kenya, who hold the sovereign power under Article 1 of our Constitution. And that power allows them, therefore, to exercise their sovereign responsibility, including their right to vote. And therefore, I wish to assure Kenyans that their voices will not only be heard, but they will also count during this, the coming elections. As we look ahead, I urge you to stand firm in your commitment to democratic values. Together, we must build a stronger, more resilient nation, one election at a time.
Well, there you have it, giving his word to Kenyans that the process will be free, fair, and credible, and that his loyalty lies with the people. Allow me to introduce my guests. Joining me in studio, I'll first start with a lady. She's Janet Karimi. She's a lawyer from Siasa Place. Janet, it's great to have you with us. Thank you for making time. Karibu.
Thank you for having me.
I see you are armed with the Constitution.
Yeah.
Well, good stuff. Another gentleman who's always armed with the Constitution joins us in studio. Kevin Osido needs no introduction. He's the Executive Director of County Governance Watch. Osido, karibu sana. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, and receive greetings from the people of Nakuru.
You've been up and about.
Sure.
Ground inasemaje?
Oh, nasema sikiza ground.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, that's proper to note. We were supposed to be joined by James Oswago, who's the former CEO of IEBC. Unfortunately, he won't be able to join us as things stand, but the show must go on, as we always say. So, Osido, I'd like to begin with you, because the IEBC is expected to deliver free, fair, and credible elections, and they're expected to leverage on technology to prevent rigging cases in the 2027 polls. The public's trust in IEBC and their ability to deliver credible polls has been tested not once, not twice, but time and time again. So let's start with the general questions. What do you think is lying ahead in terms of IEBC's task? Are they up to the task? And especially, can they ensure public confidence in democratic outcomes?
Thank you so much, Jesse. First and foremost, that really is a huge responsibility for this commission, particularly given its foundational background or the background to its formation, coming almost 2.5 years after last year's general election. Ceteris paribus, the factors relating to why this delay. Of course, public trust and confidence has completely waned of lots of our constitutional commissions, and particularly for this election, given the context, what they say, vitu kwa ground, ama ground inasemaje, then you realize that the commission has a lot of task and responsibility to be able to build and boost that trust in the public, and also confidence that they will be able to do what it takes, and not just what it takes, but that they'll be able to really boost the confidence of the people of Kenya to, one, believe that they are the right people to do the work based on some of the petitions that were submitted to the High Court as well. The beauty of it is that the courts now have dealt with those issues, particularly on allegiances, even as much as the chair is talking about their desire to have Kenyans trust that they can be able to deliver. I remember the chair from 2007, 2008, as they worked with the UNDP in one of the programs. And so I am sure that is one gentleman who has the grasp of what it takes to be able to not only speak electoral reforms, but also present peace and security and, merge those elements of peace and security to deal with the context that Kenya finds itself in right now. Of course, the team is also presented by Mheshimiwa or Madam Anne Nderitu, someone that we've also worked with very closely, both as the manager in charge of voter education and IEC, and then moving forward to the registrar of political parties, the immediate former now. And so the kind of confidence, the kind of experience that therefore Madam Anne Nderitu presents to the commission, I think is one that is unmatched, especially based on the ability to understand the different political context from her former office. And so the kind of experience, therefore, that she has borne from the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties will really come in handy in terms of turning the political tensions that might be presented as we head towards, one, the responsibility to conduct free, fair, verifiable, accountable, and transparent elections for Kenya, and also really to create opportunities for public participation, public engagement, because, Jesse, we all know that there are lots of other regulations that are still lying at the National Assembly, especially that relate to the work that IEBC is supposed to do. And bringing in Mheshimiwa Lutalala, a gentleman that you have severally interviewed, we have shared this platform with, and his experience having worked with the Amani National Congress as well as a legal consultant, I think that really presents another core expertise, particularly navigating the legal issues, the legal technicalities that IEBC and the Secretariat and the Commission might want to go through. And I remember this professor who told us during his interview that he was in charge of, measuring and creating delimiting boundaries and ETs. And I think that is really core, especially when it comes to some of the work that IEBC has to do, which in my view, I do not think that we have to meet the threshold of boundaries delimitation, because one, it's been overtaken by events constitutionally, because we should have done this 1 year or so ago by March 2024. And again, given some of the very critical timelines, which we learned from 2007 through the Kriegler Commission, the timelines around major reforms that need to take place before elections happen, then I think, in my view, that IEBC doesn't have to bother itself. The new commission doesn't have to bother itself with the boundaries delimitation. But as I finish, so that my co-panelists can come in, I believe that the by-elections should be and must be at the core, at the apex tail of what IEBC has to do because of the disenfranchisement that some of our Kenyans have faced. Yeah. You mentioned 26 electoral units, very, very critical for their representation, and indeed just the mere fact of even testing the new commission ahead of the real task, which is the elections in 2027, if they will be done in 2027.
That's a big if. We'll get to that in just a few. Janet, give us your take as a lawyer, because we have upcoming by-elections, and they say the taste of the pudding is in the eating. So this will be the first test for the Ethicon-led commission in terms of providing credible elections. Just for the sake of our viewers, upcoming by-elections in Baringo, that's at the senators level. 6 National Assembly seats are up for grabs in Banisa, Magarini, Ugunja, Malava, Mbere North, and Kasipul, as well as 15 wards across the country. Do you believe this mini polls will give a realistic picture of what to expect in 2027, perhaps from a political point of view in terms of political popularity, but equally in terms of testing their worth, the IEBC commissioners' worth in terms of delivering a credible election here?
Okay, thank you. I'll start by quoting the Constitution. The citizens have a right to fair and elections that are free and fair, yes, that are not, okay, sorry about that. So the Constitution gives, Article 38 of the Constitution gives all the citizens of Kenya a right to free and fair elections. What does this mean? That the IEBC, and going by the sworn statement of the current IEBC chairperson, he said that he's going to deliver, his own statement stated that he's going to deliver elections that are free and fair, and he's going to act in a manner that is impartial and without prejudice. So this means that we are coming from a position where a lot of Kenyans, and especially the younger generation, are really do not trust the government and do not trust the IEBC to actually deliver a credible election. This is maybe to take you back to 2022 elections, where you found that we had a split screen with regards to when the elections were being announced. So I believe that the 22 by-elections that are coming up serves as a benchmark as to whether this IEBC commission actually is going to deliver elections that are fair. Because number one, we have rumors. If you go through Twitter each and every day, you will see comments, especially from activists. And you see, it's in such situations where you find that misinformation and disinformation actually does thrive. And given that when I go on Twitter, let's say for instance, as a young generation, and I see that people are saying that maybe they're gonna be bought or something of the sort, why would I wake up in 2027 and go vote if I'm very sure that this IEBC is going to, maybe be bought? And with the clip that you've actually shown when the interview was starting, when actually a leader in the society saying that if Ruto, and I quote verbatim, akikosa kushinda 2027, tutajaza. What does that mean? We need IEBC to actually stand and show that they are going to actually make sure that these elections are not going to be rigged, these elections are going to be fair, and this starts by making sure that the voter register is actually, we revise the voter register to ensure that there are no people who are already dead that are registered as voters, and young people who are not eligible to vote, for instance, underage people, are not registered as voters. As well. That's my take.
Okay, interesting. Yes. Since you let the cat out of the bag, let's listen into what these leaders had to say. It's an array of comments by some political leaders in the country, which have sort of hinted that 2027 might be rigged, the polls rather. Let's just listen in.
Ya His Excellency the President, sisi maneno yetu ni mafupi tu. Tunasema tu 2 term. Ama kuna maneno mengine? 2 term. Sio? Si tunangojea tu debe iletwe hata kama hatutakuwa na votes tutamuibia.
Juu waende chini, waende kando, hakuna penye Ruto anaenda. Ama ni aje? Si mnajua wale wanajifanya wanafikirianga lazima wao tu ndio waongoze inji.
Wewe ni rais wa Kenya uliyechaguliwa kamili. Na hakuna rais nusu-nusu. Kalia hiyo kiti vizuri. Second term utaingia. Second term utaingia.
2027 na marafiki zako wanatuambia mnapanga kuiba 2027. Saa hii tuko na IEBC. Mimi kama wakili najua sheria iruhusu mtu kuhujumu matokeo ya uchaguzi. Kama mtu ametangaza wazi kwamba anataka kuiba kura. Hawa jamaa Ethical na ndugu zake wengine wameingia IEBC juzi. Waite hawa bunge ambao wanasema wataiba kura kwa ajili.
Now, it's no secret that political interference continues to undermine Kenya's electoral integrity. And perhaps those are classic examples for those who are speaking that, second term is assured even before the 2027 polls. And some even go a step ahead to say watajazilia kura. So I just want to find out your take on these claims of filling the ballot. Because, Osido, the first prefix in the name of IEBC is independent. And it's not just a name, it should show the independence of this commission, free from political interference and whatnot. Do you believe this commission can rise above political interference?
Jesse, yes, I do. And remember that on a number of occasions, former IEBC chairs have loudly wondered why sane professionals would want to vie for, or not really vie for, but apply for jobs where they know that is either their deathbeds or that will be rendered to political oblivion. And with special reference to Mheshimiwa Isaac Hassan, my good friend from IPOA. Because therefore, it is politicians like these ones, to whom I would refer to as sensationalist propagandists, that would want to begin to whip Kenyans to a corner that is extremely irresponsible. Because the Constitution of Kenya has given sovereignty, all sovereign power, to the people, and that this can be exercised either directly or indirectly. So directly, you run for office and you are elected, or indirectly, you do what now we go to do. You vote for people. So let nobody imagine that in this era of 2027, with the kind of interest that the Gen Zs and late millennials, like some of us, have expressed in the new political dispensation of this country, you will imagine to stuff a ballot box and escape. It is not going to happen. In fact, people like these ones will not even be allowed to access any polling station. We are watching you, and we are actually matching you, because on that day, tutahakikisha ya kuwa nyinyi, your sovereignty is lost by locking you home until when the president is announced in the evening or by 12 o'clock midday, because the Gen Zs have also told us that they are working on a platform that is going to ensure that as people cast their votes, the results are going to be out there. And if it is happening in other jurisdictions, why not in Kenya? And where we're also talking about serious investment in elections that are electronic. And not just that, but that we've also had 2 or so successful presidential petitions that have also told us that elections are won at the polling station level. So the degree of interest that the Gen Zs and a number of young people have showed in this the political times, as it were, will not allow for stuffing. And as I finish on this, Jesse, remember that at the 2022 presidential petition, there's a question that one of the judges asked one counsel. And he was saying, you have been given 6 ballots. And you have taken the 6 ballots with different colors, and you have 6 boxes. and you only want to cast one ballot for your MCA, where do you take this 5? Where do you take this 5?
Yeah.
And in one of the judgments from the Supreme Court, I think is a 2017, which actually took us to the second election,
Polls, yeah.
it is this kind of irresponsible behavior where actually Justice Maraga realized that the total number of votes cast were not equal to total number of ballot papers that were surrendered and signed off by the different electoral officers. So let no politician begin to imagine that sensationalizing Kenyans and thinking that you are much more smarter than Kenyans is going to help you. For this one, is going to be very different. So let's have trust in the IEBC. Let's have hope in the IEBC and believe that they are competently qualified to deliver free, fair, verifiable, transparent, and accountable election for the people of Kenya. Failure to which, we will still go back to the Supreme Court because Kenyans are interested in knowing why some people would be talking about, stuffing ballot papers. That room is not going to be there. And probably as one of the issues I think that came up in the 2022 presidential petition was the issue of, what are they called? Agents. So the manner of interest and the degree, the manner of investment and the degree of interest that young people have in this election will ensure that they get whatever they can to be accredited as agents of whichever manner, even as observers. As Kevin Osido, I think I've observed almost all elections from 2013 up to the latest. And it's not a big deal. It's about engagement with the IEBC. You apply to be an observer, you are accredited, and then you are given a badge. And you can walk anywhere in any of those polling stations, including up to and until when the votes are being, distributed, when your people are voting, when the votes are being counted, until when they are being posted on the notice boards.
Yeah.
So there is no room for piki ponki, as Mheshimiwa Otieno would say, that some MPs are imagining that they are going to play on Kenyans.
Okay, well, we just hope they don't walk the talk and that the security features on our polls and the ballot papers will stand the test of time. Janet, coming to you, we expect this commission to resume the continuous mass voter registration exercise. And according to the information they gave, they're projecting 5.7 million new voters ahead of the 2027 election, majority of whom are youth. Now, it's common knowledge that in 2022 general election, we saw a decline in the number of youth, the young people who registered as voters and even participated in the voting process. They call it voter apathy. We've seen the impact voter apathy can have in the quality of leaders. Do you think youth currently are sensitized on the importance of registering? And how do we ensure that we realize that voting can truly change their fortunes, whether unemployed, whether employed, whether taxpayers, or whether they file nil returns? Yeah.
Okay. So one thing about what Siasa Place does, Siasa Place, when I tell someone that I work in Siasa Place, they're going to ask me, oh, politics. But you fail to recognize the fact that politics affect your everyday life. Politics do not end at the ballots. Politics affect how, if there are going to be medicine in the hospital, the education system in Kenya, they're going to affect the roads. So, for instance, they're also going to affect things like, I've said hospitals, education, roads, and when it comes to voter apathy, in 2022, a lot of people did not know the different roles of the different types of leaders. There was the misinformation in terms of, you'll hear someone saying, let's say in the Mashinani, someone saying, this road is, let's say the MCA is the one who's supposed to actually build it. And the MCAs, while campaigning, they're gonna ride on that narrative for you to actually elect them. So if you don't know the different roles of the leaders that you're electing, it is very difficult for you to understand how politics affect you in your daily life. Because Article 1 of the Constitution says that all sovereign power belongs to the people. And as the famous quote on Twitter that says, the people shall, mandatory. So I, as a person, I'm the one who holds the power. I have employed, I'm the one who's giving these politicians a job. And citizens also fail to realize that I have the same power to actually recall these political leaders if they do not perform duties if they do not represent my interests in the government. For instance, you will see when people were voting for the finance bill, you will say there was that all shenanigan of Salimia Uyu MP, because your MP voted for yes or the MP voted no. So people were getting phone numbers for politicians and greeting them. Others were even being beaten because they were not representing the interests of the people as they wanted at that time. So I feel like the younger generation right now is now woke. Okay. And the politicians have they're going to say that achana nao Gen Z watasahau, awata register as voters, but I can tell you as a fact, a lot of people right now have registered as voters. And if you followed when the IEBC released the link where you can actually confirm that you're a registered voter, a lot of people on social media, especially on X, were actually posting and showing that they've registered as voters. Okay. So I do encourage, the IEBC, it's mandated to actually conduct voter education, to train people who do not understand how to go about this process, to actually ensure that they end up registering as voters, so that at the end of the day, your only card to choosing leaders that are credible, and also having the moral authority, because a lot of people are being told that you do not have the moral authority to comment on politics because you did not vote in 2022, which is right. But right now, people have actually seen madhara, you are not voting in 2022, because they end up putting leaders that are not, that do not fit under the criteria of leadership and integrity under Chapter 6 of the Constitution. So it's more of encouraging people to actually continue registering as voters, and not watering down the efforts of those young people that are actually encouraging others to go ahead and register as voters. Because for now, I can say that it's tell a friend to tell a friend. Because there's even a joke where people are saying, if I'm going on a first date with someone, the first question is, are you a registered voter in Kenya? Yes.
Okay, it's clear civic education is not an event, it's a process. So it's ongoing time and time again. Well, Osido, it will cost the country at least 16 or 61 billion shillings to undertake the 2027 general election. And it's promising yet again to be the most expensive election. Every election cycle we say this. And the budget is 19 billion more than the amount used in the previous polls. The question is, what exactly are Kenyan taxpayers paying for? Because IEBC justifies the budget by citing technology, the logistical complications and the complexities that come with planning an election countrywide, and the growing electorate. But does this justify Kenya spending more per voter than the peer countries with similar electoral demands? Why are we spending so much on elections? Yet at the end of the day, the cycle is clear. Someone will reject the outcome. They will go to courts for dramatic litigation. A ruling will be passed. And at the end of the day, protests, then a form of a handshake. Why spend so much yet we know the process? Yeah.
That's a very good question, Jesse. And I believe that it's a question that will also have to be answered by the new commission, because the past commissioners have had to respond to that question. And I remember in some of the meetings in the previous elections, we have had, because I've sat in some of those meetings representing County Governance Watch, where commissioners and staff of the commission have been at pains to justify what that hefty amount of money really means. Of course, one of the things that might be deemed to be a response factor to this is the upcoming by-elections, which are largely also elections. So putting together the by-elections, the 26 by-elections, and especially given that One of them is like a county election. Others are about, I think 15 of them are ward elections, and then you have the 6 for constituency. But of course, that as it may be, the most important concern here is the trust that Kenyans have with the commission. Now, the kind of budget that you are talking about and that has been already submitted by IEBC indicates that we still do not have trust, because part of the heavy percentage of that financial resource goes to the electoral elections infrastructure. Now, part of that infrastructure is largely security, so that you talk about the human security, the policemen and women that have to be there for almost a week, deployed across the entire country. I think in 2022, we were talking about 44,600 plus, if I'm not wrong, polling stations. Yeah. Right now, they are talking about 55,393, thereabouts. Now, that also means that the infrastructure has to be bolstered. You have to increase the human resource, you have to increase the kind of facilities, even safeguarding the polling stations, the kind of preparations that we see happening. And then the second factor is what we call the ballot paper security. In 2022 elections, we were told that one ballot paper
how many security features?
Had 11 security features, as opposed to, I think, the 3 that were there in 2017 elections.
Yeah.
Now, why we have to do that really is something that we must keep pondering and bothering ourselves about. Why 11? And by the way, if by that time, Jesse, we were printing our money, the currency for the Republic of Kenya at Delarue, just across here on Thika Road, why must we go to all these countries that are here being quoted, and then we meet some strange names? Who are they? Those guys that were being mentioned at the Supreme Court.
I forget the name. Camargo.
Yes, and we have to engage with people that have been delisted in other countries, that have credibility issues. Why must we have to go through all this? And so it is important for the new commission to begin to prepare to answer to Kenyans, because those are heavy taxpayers' monies that will go into a process that, as you say, is therefore going to be lumped with petitions, discredits, and really you ask yourself, so therefore, was it really worth it? So the most important thing for this commission, in my view, is to boost public trust and confidence. And also, even as we talk about elections largely being about, people, the law, and then technology, is also to ask ourselves, if Jesse today I send you M-Pesa, I just need my phone and I need your number. And then I insert your number, and then it takes me to amount, and then I insert the amount, then it takes me to my PIN number, I insert my PIN number, and then the money comes to you, and a message comes back to me to verify. And if you like, you can call me and say, thank you so much for the M-Pesa, or if you don't, I will see that it has been received by yourself. But if it goes to a wrong number, there are also mechanisms to retract that money on my M-Pesa. Why must our elections be manual, like I have to wake up? In fact, where I vote in West Oyoma Nyabera School, Rarieda sub-county, Siaya County, we don't sleep on election day. It is a whole night vigil. Why must we go through that? You have to travel, people have to travel. Sometimes we are told, hakuna magari, pesa hakuna, you have to, navigate how people will get money. The elderly have to be, whipped, carried into ambulances and taken to vote, the sick from these facilities. Why can't this commission just make our elections possible through online voting? We see it happening in South Africa. I think they tried it in this country called Ghana. The US is a very splendid example. They invest in our election heavily on technology, but in their country, technology is working. So we also want to ask the commissioners to begin to think outside the box, because this generation that we are talking about, the IEBC has a plan to, register an addition of 5.7 million voters in this next voter registration drive. In 2022, we are told that 8.4 million young people did not vote. We must ask ourselves, if they are this tech savvy and that digital democracy and technology is working, that we can stop a finance bill, we can send home a cabinet, that we can storm parliament using our phones and just a bottle of water and a banana or this simple thing called an armrest. Why must we have all these queues with policemen telling people, hey, sio line yako, songa pale, sijui fanya nini? Why? Why must we have vehicles getting stuck with ballot papers and then suddenly Jesse is reporting on news, so and so they have not voted because their ballot papers, the lorry is stuck somewhere? Are we that analogistic? I don't think so.
Okay, and perhaps Janet, you can add to that, because at the end of the day, we usually see KIMS kit and electronic voter identification and transmission systems failing when the country really depend on it, and it throws the country in limbo. And while researching for this, I saw, just perhaps buttressing what Osido has said, that, this is a generation that's always on their phone. They order food online, they can attend classes online as well. Why not register as voters online? I think that's one of the issues that this commission needs to look at in terms of reducing voter apathy and bringing more of the youth into this voting bracket. Tell us, what do you think this new IEBC team can do to achieve electoral reforms that inspire, trust in the system and the technology that they have used during the election? Yeah.
Okay, as my colleague here has said, elections in Kenya have been characterized with no sleep, traveling. Let's say I've been registered to vote in Machakos. So that means if I really want to vote, unless I don't want to, if I really have to vote, I have to travel back home to go and vote from there. But if this, my urge to this current commission is you don't have to do things as they were done. Like you said, the IEBC starts with the word independence. So it's upon you to actually sit down and see, is this decision that I'm going to make best for Kenyans or for myself? You don't have to think about the people, let's say the current regime. Whatever that you're doing has to be in the best interest of Kenyans, because they're the people who have put you there, they're the people who are giving you the mandate. So, like I said, you don't have to do things like they were done by the previous commissions. Yeah. So, just maybe we have a lot of tech companies that have been that are in Kenya, and we can also benchmark with other countries and see what has worked for them, what has not worked, and see if it's a system that we can adopt. We can even say that we can try with these by-elections that are coming. If they do deliver good results and the process is seamless, we can actually go ahead and adopt this for 2027. So another thing is when it comes to announcing the elections, where you find that all media houses have their own results, to a point that the government actually has to order shutdown. Unapata tuseme Citizen wamesema so and so wako mbele, unaingia KTN unapata your candidate is not doing well. You see, that brings in tension in the country, because let's say this media house has declared results, and then the IEBC comes in and declares different results as to what the other people were telling. Yeah. So I feel like in as much as we are going to use, we are transitioning into a period where we need to see elections being done online. We also need to collaborate with different organizations that are work in the same area, so that if it comes to media doesn't have to rely, send their own people to go and get results from different polling stations. Yeah. Share the results as they are. I feel like that's transparent, and it will reduce that tension for Kenyans. Yeah, it will make it seamless, because technology is often sold as a magic solution to this deficit of trust and whatnot. Osido, I'd like your take on this issue about IEBC struggling with tallying at the presidential level. Because at the other 5 levels, it's so rare to hear someone going to court to contest the election outcome. But when it comes to the presidential ballot, that's where tinkering might happen, allegedly, or stuffing of ballots and whatnot. So talk to us about this presidential race come 2027.
Do you think cleaning of the voter register will sort of bring back the credibility in terms of the presidential voting process? What do you make of the possibility of all registers being, all voters being registered afresh vis-a-vis the cleaning and auditing of the voters register to remove dead voters? How should we go about it?
Precisely, and of course there are regulations that are supposed to be done to ensure that there is a step-by-step process to be able to achieve that, particularly in the wake of, one, the new commission, and also the certain judgments that have been made in previous petitions. Now, part of those are the fact that, of course, we have been shocked when we realize that, for example, when a petition is being adjudicated and you have a petitioner saying, I got X number of votes, and from our analysis, the votes that were given to the presidential are more than the number of registered voters, and is also more than the number of the gubernatorial candidate of that particular county. Then already there are questions coming up to that. And we have seen those kind of concerns both in the 2017 presidential petition and also the 2022 presidential petition. And there are very clear counties that were affected. Now, part of how that must be cured is through the audit of the voter register. And IEBC previously, and even now, I am sure that they have come up with innovative ways to be able to help Kenyans, one, to check their status, but that only helps the person who is registered. It does not help the irregularities that are embedded in the voter register. Now, that has to be juxtaposed with two things. One is the electronic register, which was also a big issue in the last election and the previous election, and also the manual register, so that you have the court saying no manual registers, and then ultimately the BVR kits are not working, the KIMS kits are not working, and so people have to resort to the manual register, which is not on site, and so people get disenfranchised, they get tired, they start getting hungry, then they go home because the preparations did not work. Yeah. At that point, therefore, you realize that cleaning the register makes it good for IEBC to boost trust in the electorate. So that once you have cleaned and you give us, like I heard the chairman saying some days ago, that we will enable Kenyans to check their status, and I think we've been going through that particular process. Yeah. Then also make it easy for people who are either disregistered or registered in irregular places to find their right footing in the places where they are supposed to be registering. And then you make it also easy for the new voters who want to register, as opposed to the current system where, for example, you realize that some Kenyans have complained, saying I went to an M-Pesa shop and it is as if they sold my details to XYZ political party, because you are registered in X party and you are not even a member of that party. So that for those who also want to deregister themselves, as opposed to officially writing to register political parties physically and then posting it online, make it also easy. That helps the IEBC to boost citizen trust. Yeah. And then it also helps the commission to clean the register. So that by the time we are heading maybe 8 months or 6 months to the election and you are having your final mass voter registration drive, then the expected number, the projected number of the 28 million voters, you can actually say that we have verified these people. Now, that way, you clean the dead people, you clean the people who, are registered to vote and are not even aware that they're supposed to be voting, and you make it easy even for the candidates, because the law also requires that that list has to be uploaded. So that for candidates who want to run, I can just go and pick, I want to run for, say, a county senator. I go to the IEBC portal and I pick, and I know that these are the valid registered voters of my electoral unit or electoral area. That way, there's a win-win, as opposed to the mistrust that many times comes up, where you have a list of people who you know very well were buried 14 years ago, and yet their names are still number 724 in that particular list. Then it is at that point, Jesse, that now concerns begin to come up. And that is where mischievous politicians, like the ones that we saw talking here, that is what they do actually. They go to the register and they know that these are the people who are not there. So can we prepare to get the papers and just tick for them? Then we print that manual register, because it has also to be ticked. The way you get your tickets, and then the last agent is the person who checks your name, and then they cross once you vote. That is what mischievous politicians like the ones we saw do. And you have heard them saying they want to do it for the presidential poll. It is going to be so difficult for those who want to steal an election using those old archaic methods. It is not going to work in 2027 again if the election will be held that time, because Kenyans are much more aware, they are extremely vigilant, and they are vigorously informed about the electoral process, and also what basically their responsibility in also protecting that vote is. And that is important because of what Wakili said, that elections mean a lot to the school that we go to, the roads that we used, the health facilities where we get health services, the water that is pumped in our places, and largely even the food that comes to our table, because all those things contribute to the taxation which is meted on Kenyans by the politicians. So you vote for a wrong person, that is what we get. We allow a wrong person to steal an election, that is what we get.
A former president used to say, siasa mbaya, maisha mbaya. So it's simple as that. Before we talk about delimitation, Osido, did we learn from the issue of the Cherera 4? At the end of the day, these commissioners might have allegiances here or there, be it political or whatnot. So will they block those influences? Have we learned from the mistakes of the past?
You know, Jesse, one thing that this commission must help Kenyans is to be independent. One of my frustrations with Cherera 4 is the misanomalies that we saw in the election, and people just walked scot-free. You know, it was in your studios when we used to be the other side where there's a red carpet that we said, if an election is nullified when you're a chair, you need to be jailed. And that you need to be accountable for losing taxpayers' monies. If there's a petition that is successful in a ward somewhere, and you are the returning officer, the presiding officer, whoever you are there, you need to be held accountable. So even for Cherera 4, it's water under the bridge. Certain people should have been held accountable for a commission that was not cohesive, for a commission that wasted taxpayers' monies, and for a commission that really right in front of Kenyans misbehaved dishonorably. And that, in my view, is a prayer that this commission does not inherit. So we are hoping that as they head towards the induction in the next coming days, they will remain harmonious. They will build trust both within the commissioners themselves and also within the secretariat, and that when they walk before Kenyans, they will be one united force. The same way we saw them saying there, so help me God. We want this God to walk with you as you start, the way we normally pray. Be the Alpha and the Omega. Lord, as we start this journey, be with us. Let nothing separate us in between, and help us to finish this journey with you.
Okay, interesting. Let's talk about delimitation as we finalize. Because, Janet, the Constitution states that IEBC shall review boundaries at intervals of not less than 8 years and not more than 12 years, but any review shall be completed at least 12 months before a general election of members of parliament. So can we advance this vital process of boundary delimitation, considering it's time-bound, or it's already water under the bridge from where you sit? How should the IEBC Commission go about it? Because if a constituency has up to, let's say, 100,000 voters, 300,000 voters, and a different one has only 50,000, the resources will, and the division might be skewed in one way or the other. Talk to us about it.
Okay, there was a question by the IEBC when it went to seek advice from the Supreme Court. Regarding whether they can actually go ahead and conduct the delimitation without having commissioners in there, like being elected. But the Attorney General raised the issue of whether the legitimacy of such a process, yeah? Now, in the instance where elections are conducted, if the process is not conducted, there is going to raise issues with regards to the legitimacy of the process, and also what you've just said in terms of imbalance when it comes to resources. And I feel like the IEBC right now should actually like go ahead and the constitutional timelines, we've already seen that the time lapsed in March 2024.
Yeah.
But I do not think that at this point they have any other option other than conduct the delimitation before the general elections in 2027, if at any point they are to avoid issues where they are going to be like people are going to court to ask whether this process is legitimate or not.
Okay,
Yeah.
Osido, give us your take, because I assume delimitation process is banked on population data. And following the court's ruling about Northeastern and the population and the census and all that issue, what do you make of this delimitation of boundaries? Is it, will they be biting more than they can chew, because they should have completed it 12 months before the general election? That's next year, August.
Yeah, precisely. And in my view, I think it's both a legal and also a technical matter.
Okay.
That one, the courts have to advise on, and I believe that the High Court already issued an advisory, the Supreme Court rather. And so the technical aspect of it is how the IEBC will be able to communicate to Kenyans. Because remember that this has been a very emotive issue, one, because of the winners and losers. Remember that even as we delimitate the boundaries, there are going to be those who will win, and there are going to be those who are going to lose. It will be very difficult to see an MP in Parliament today, National Assembly, who is passing regulations that are going to ensure that he or she loses his or her seat. Now, that is a political question, again, that IEBC, the Commission, has to innovate a way to communicate it to Kenyans. And this communication, in my view, really has to rely on the pros and cons of either doing it or not doing it. As it is right now, and constitutionally, it is a matter that has been overtaken by time, because constitutionally it should have been between 8 to 12 years, which was March 2024. And given the factors that made it possible for us now not to have an IEBC until this week, I think it is upon the Commission, because the Constitution also gives that mandate to the Commission. So it is upon them to look at how prepared they think they could be, also look at some of the former advisories, particularly from the Kriegler Commission, that for mega reforms towards elections, you cannot do them, is it 18 months to the next election? And of course, also looking at what it will take to motivate Kenyans or not to participate actively in 2027 general election. Now, if we were to lump up the delimitation and the by-elections, I think it's going to be too much for the Commission. Where I sit and having engaged in this process, especially ahead of what we thought would happen in March 2024, because at some point we actually even thought that the Secretariat would be able to undertake the boundaries delimitation until when the matter went to the court for interpretation. So we were looking at engaging Kenyans, to be part and parcel of this process beyond things like a referendum, because there are going to be referendum issues within this particular, expectation. Are Kenyans ready for that kind of a heavy political process? You also look at people would remember BBI, where we had, of course, BBI is water under the bridge, but we had people proposing 70 new constituencies and even change of names. So all those political emotions, I think, would really, if IEBC were, the new commissioners were to listen to me, Commissioner Talala should be advising the Commission together with the Attorney General and the other good lawyers there. I think the boundaries delimitation can be carried over to the next election and effectively engage Kenyans in an ongoing, very proactive, positive communication process that helps them to understand that for now you will not lose your constituency, or we will still go on the way we are, or we will not create a new one, because there are people expecting to go into 2027 with the new boundary, new constituencies, etc.
Okay.
But it's really up to the commission and how they manage it.
Well, we hope they'll manage it well. Equally understand their bills before Parliament touching on boundary delimitation and the timelines. So we'll definitely keep our viewers updated on any changes as per that. But thank you so much, gentlemen and lady, for your input right here as we evaluated IEBC's in-tray. They have their work cut out for them. And at the end of the day, a credible election, a free, fair and credible election is what Kenyans want. I was joined in studio by Kevin Osido, Executive Director of the County Governance Watch, a walking constitution, and Janet Karemi, a lawyer who is from Siasa Place. Asanteni sana for your input. Definitely appreciate it. That's how we wrap up tonight's edition of KTN Prime. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you're adequately informed. Enjoy the rest of your viewing. My name is Jesse Rogers. On behalf of the entire team, including our sign language interpreter, Maresha Uiti, we say good evening.